Welcome to the tutorial for the project system of the Ecotaxonomy. Choose Projects on the dashboard. To create a new project, click on Create and Form button. Here you can fill basic information in your projects. Short name, full title. For sub-projects, you can select Parental Project, time period aimed, and description. Click on Save. You are transferred to the full form of the new project. Here you can add project picture, browse through the tree of your project and change basic information. Now I will upload a picture and save the project. Any changes you will make here can be saved by clicking the Save button on the top pane of the form. In the Members tab, you can see project members. Click on the button Edit to modify the list. Here you can add or remove users that are registered in the system. These users will have access to the project. In the Measurements tab, you can select or remove measurements. Measurements are parameters that are measured on the individual organisms such as body size, leaf area, sex, life stage. In the Plots tab, you can create and modify field size or experimental treatments. Click on Add Plot button and fill in the basic information about the plot. You can create a hierarchical system of plots by linking the plot to a parental plot. Field sites have geographical coordinates and are linked to a certain location. You can also add free nodes here. Click Save. Now we can select this plot from the list and modify its basic information. In this form, you can define factors for this plot. These are custom parameters, for instance, the experimental treatments or ecosystem types. You can create any factor according to the design of your project. It can be text, number, or list of categories. You can modify or delete this factor thereafter. In the modification form, you can also add categories for categorical factors. Now you can define a value for the factor you just created. Let's create a plot nested within our first plot. You should select the presentation plot as a parent plot and click on the Save button. Now you can select this plot in the list and see that all defined factor values were inherited from the parental plot, but you can change them. In the Default Taxa tab, you can select focal taxa you want to work with in the project. These taxa will automatically appear in the organism identification form. In the Storages tab, you can add chambers, boxes, or bags that you will use to store your organisms. Storages can be hierarchical. Storages are attached to a contact person to track the real location of your material. In the Organizations tab, you can add involved organizations. After you added all the information you need to the project, in the Main tab, you can create a sampling event to work with your organisms. Sampling event is a group of samples or organisms that you are taking from selected plots in a given period of time using a given method. In this form, you can fill in how many samples from each of the project plots you will take. After clicking on the Create button, you can open the sampling event in the table using the right button. In the event form, you can change basic information about the event and switch between events of the project. According to what we filled in, 6 samples on 2 plots were created in the table of samples. You can also add the persons who collected the samples, which will be used in the metadata of your collection. Open a sample in the table using the right button. This is the identification form. Here you add organisms, identify them, and define values for their measurements. In the top row, you can add organism of any taxonomic identity. For example, you found 3 individuals, place them in the storage box 2 and identify them as Odotophaeus excelsus. The button Apply will create an individual record for these organisms in the table. In this table, you can define measurement values for the record. Columns in this table corresponding to the measurements added to the Measurements tab of the project. Click the Save button to save changes. The default taxa allow you to fill the form faster. Optionally, you can define a specific name or code for your individual records. Alternatively, they will be created automatically. Factors and pictures can be also added to a sample. After you are finished with filling up the individual records in the samples, you can work with your organisms in the Storages tab of your project form. Here you can see the box 2, where the organisms were stored. The tree of storages is an easy way for a project member to access the organisms while working with sorted material in the laboratory. Always add contact information to locate your storages. In this form, you can further modify your collection. For instance, you can split individual records. Fill in the number of organisms you want to extract from a record and press confirm. Now we have two individual records with 2 and 3 organisms instead of one record with 5 organisms.